Hello, welcome to Utah's breakout session. I see people joining, so I'm going to give us about one more minute to see who all joins us. I am going to enter a link in the chat. If you pull that up, you can access our slides. There's a bunch of information in here you can come back to and refer to these slides later. All right, welcome everybody. I'm posting a link in our chat here. This is a bit.ly link that will take you to our slides. So if you go ahead and copy and paste this in a browser, you'll be able to access our slides here, and you'll be able to come back to refer to all the information here at a later date. I'm going to go ahead and get started. I know people are continuing to join us. I'm going to post that link one more time for the slides in the chat, so that way we can keep true to our time constraint of the hour that we are supposed to be here given the preliminary session. A little bit about Mindspark Learning. We're a national nonprofit education organization. My name is Jacki Reid. I'm the Vice President of Computer Science Initiatives and Education. My email is on this screen. Again, if you copy and paste the bit.ly link in the chat, you will be able to access all of this information anytime for your reference. Mindspark, our purpose is well-being, innovation, inclusivity, and workforce development. So specifically thinking about STEM and computer science as a mechanism for creating a better society. We all know as educators that education is the biggest key to creating a better future for us all. I would love for you all to enter in the chat just a little bit about your name, your role, your experience with computer science, and why you chose to attend today. So I'm going to give us a minute to do that, and then I'll move on. And if you want to unmute, please feel free to unmute. Hi, Ed. It's great to see you here.
Jacki, it's good to actually speak with you directly, right?
Right. I know. We've done a lot of communicating over email, so it's great to see you. Yeah. Linda, it's great to have you from Washington County.
Thank you.
Great for the computer science K5. That is definitely where my passion lies as a former elementary teacher myself, is elementary education. So Beth, it's great to have you here. A professor at San Diego, curriculum developer for third, fourth, and fifth. That's fun. We do a lot of curriculum work at Mindspark as well. So as you guys are finishing entering those, I'm just going to take us through our agenda just for our time. And I'm going to move a little fast because I know our session went a little over in the prelims. So we're going to look at some K5 integration models and then talk about the hour of code, which is what John was speaking about, that family code night. So there's a few events that you can do to really boost up the community around computer science, especially at elementary school, and really create a beautiful ecosystem between your K-12 pathways to all participate in some hour of code events celebrating computer science education. And then just going to wrap up with some free events Mindspark has and supports and how we can support you on your journey. So we're all here, why elementary school? In Utah specific, there's over 8,000 jobs in computer science available, and that salary is amazing. Over $80,000 for a beginner level job. That's a life-changing amount of money for our students, for their families, and for communities. Yet in Utah, back in 2018, there was such a small number of students that actually graduated with the skills needed to fulfill these jobs. And we know since then, we've had some great legislator in Utah pushed with the Utah Master Plan for CS education and the grant that's been available. So there's some real changes happening in Utah, and you guys are lucky for all of that support as well. And thinking about elementary school, why we talk about elementary school, because there's a lot of pivotal development going on in these primary years for students, and students develop this STEM identity between second and fourth grade, which is their identity to say, hey, I like science, I'm good at math, I'm good at engineering and technology. Or for our traditionally underrepresented students, girls, people of diverse race and ethnicity, socioeconomic, disadvantaged families, first generation families, immigrants, refugees, we know that those students have more barriers when it comes to risk. And if they say, hey, I don't know if I'm good at computer science. I don't know. I've had an experience and I didn't know what was going on. I don't want to try this again because I didn't have that positive experience. So we know elementary school is pivotal in setting up a positive experience for students that's fun and engaging while exposing them to computer science. So they're more likely to continue to engage and enter the workforce and increase inclusivity in computer science. MIT came out with a really great article. It's called The Lost Einsteins. So again, if you copy and paste that bit.ly link, you can have all this to come back and read these articles and information that are referenced here. But what they talk about are the millions of students that we've missed out on millions of innovators because millions of students have missed out on STEM and computer science opportunities because of where they live, because of what school they go to. So exposing more children to innovation when they are young, the younger the better, really sets students up for success. And that's why elementary school is so important. So specifically looking at one of the first modules or one of the first integration styles is the code.org K5 curriculum. You can navigate to code.org if you would like. I did have us doing an activity, but we're going to skip over that given our time constraints. Again, the bit.ly link is also up here on the slide on your screen if you don't see it in the chat. So please feel free to enter that bit.ly link in your browser. As Kate went over looking at some of those code.org, it's really scaffolded for students. So primary students that are pre-readers, they will look that most of their learning in learning computer science will be through unplugged activities and through activities that don't require a lot of text heavy on reading because they're developing those skills. So you can see some images here on what they might be doing, the block coding they might be doing right there. Looking at our older students, so in second and third grade, we really dive into that critical thinking skills, and students are prompted with predicting. What do you think is going to happen? Which we know is foundational when we're talking about reading, when we're thinking about math word problems. What do you think is going to happen here in this problem? And so this really organically helps emphasize that prediction and those critical thinkings in second and third grade. And then moving on to fourth and fifth grade, they get into design thinking projects, which we're huge fans of design thinking at Mindspark, giving students the chance to innovate to a problem they choose and coming up with something they're passionate about. So code.org has this built in through their fourth and fifth grade curriculum where students really dive into these design thinking problems. Let me do a quick time check here. All right. So I'm going to click on this here, and I was going to have you guys navigate to the standards, but I just want to show you a brief example of their standard connection in code.org because they definitely have standards that are connected to computer science through CSTA, which is, if you're not joined to CST, the Utah chapter, I highly recommend joining CSTA's Utah chapter. There's a lot of free information, a lot of free peer-to-peer connections and networking there. But I want to jump down here and look for some common core alignment. So in code.org, they have alignment to some of their activities for next generation science standards. And they also pull out common core alignment. Let me jump down here. I think it's lesson 14. Oh, it's not lesson 14. Here it is, lesson 17. So here in lesson 17, and this is for third grade. So for third grade, they not only have CS standards, but they have common core standards in there. They'll have math, they'll have science. But what we do is we have teachers think about what other standards could you be hitting with this, thinking about English, language arts standards, and comprehension, and understanding text and literacy. And then so in the curriculum, there's a lot of opportunities for other standard integration. And that's really what we advocate for when we're talking about computer science education. Not all schools and districts have the ability to hire a CS specific role. And we're going to take a look into some popular ways to integrate computer science, whether that's through a CS role or whether that's through content integration, depending on your school district and the budget you have available for elementary CS. So there's some free workshops in Utah coming up. It's linked in on this image. So if you open the slides on that bit.ly link, you can send this out to teachers and they are free to join these free sessions to learn about the code.org curriculum. So in Utah, we have the Utah CS Master Plan, which we're very lucky to have this backing. Are you guys familiar with that? You can give me a quick thumbs up or a yes in the chat. But who else familiar with the Utah CS master plan? I'm seeing a few nods, a few thumbs up there. Great. So in Utah, you have this master plan to help support you in determining what CS looks like through the K-12 pipeline and giving all students a chance by this next upcoming year to learn computer science. So you guys are right there on the pivotal break of offering this to all students in your schools and in your districts. So we're going to jump into what does computer science look like in elementary school. What we see most often is if it's not a certified computer science teacher or a certified teacher, it's a paraprofessional. We see a lot of paraprofessionals jumping into computer science education and districts utilizing paras to teach CS. So what does this look like? When can students participate in CS, whether that's from a certified teacher or from a paraprofessional? So right here, you can see how certified teachers would integrate computer science. It might be in a STEM or STEAM special, and a tech special, computer science special, or it might be the cross content integration, whether that's a math or science teacher that offers computer science in a unit throughout the year for their regular curriculum. In a paraprofessional, let me go back here, just had a little sensitive mouse there. For paraprofessionals, we see this being offered in the library rotation or special, or it could also still be a para teaching the tech or the computer science special. Many schools only offer PE, art, music as specials. So if you hire on an additional para, they could be teaching computer science, or if they're in the library, that's also where students could get their computer science education. And then again, having paras support their classroom teacher and pulling out to do computer science specials during science and math. So it's connected to that district scope and sequence. And having a small team do that work, right? So we often work with small admin teams or small teacher cohort teams that actually do the work in identifying if there's not an opportunity to have a para or certified teacher special, what does it look like to integrate computer science into your current math scope and sequence, into your current science scope and sequence, and where is it most meaningful in K-5? So that's another option, is having that support in the cross-curricular integration. So thinking about how can every school staff a computer science teacher? So again, not every school has funding to do that. In Utah, you have your state grant available, but that could be support to stipend a computer science teacher. But you can also combine this with the library special and CS combined. You can use title money, so Title IV funding or other money to fund a certified position or a para position. You can also substitute multiple para positions that might exist at your school for primary grades and substitute those for a CS or STEM certified position, or transfer that para to teach CS and STEM versus supporting the classroom in the primary grades. Looking at the curriculum and instruction support. So thinking about how do schools support their teachers or their paras, which is more tricky. If you have a paraprofessional teaching computer science, that paraprofessional needs support because they're not a certified teacher. They can't be required to assess students. They can't be required to create lessons. So thinking about how could you support that paraprofessional, and that's having monthly meetings or weekly meetings for those paras where you show them the curriculum they're going to be taught, and you have that outlined for them, whether that's code.org or another curriculum, and you say, okay, this month, these are the lessons you're going to teach, here they are, and have that weekly check-in so that way you know paras are on task and they're doing what they should be doing, and taking that burden off of them, because again, they're not certified teachers. So a good way is having those professional learning opportunities for paras, but also the monthly or bi-weekly meetings, having those paras together with you or another admin or a teacher leader that can also be paid for through grant money to lead this group of paras, and having them check in regularly. So thinking about computer science professional learning funding. So in Utah, there's the state education grant that most districts were awarded. 41 out of 47 of y'all's districts were awarded that grant. So you guys are off and running when it comes to getting CS K-12 out for your students, especially elementary school students. So thinking that this funding, this certified teacher, is part of their regular duty, but for paras, if you're going to have paras in this position, that could be flex time for them, or they could get paid additional time. for participating in those extra trainings or professional learning monthly meetings, what have you, come that decision. And then there's also the professional learning that can be through code.org, CSTA Learnings, Boot Up, Mindspark, all the CS providers that are out there, STEM Action Center in Utah. So you can look at the grant opportunities and the STEM budget that schools currently receive as opportunities to help grow computer science programs in K-5 and in K-12. At this point, I would like to stop looking at the different models of using computer science in K-5, whether that's paraprofessionals, whether it's a certified teacher, it's integrated with the curriculum, it's a special, it's a pull-out. Do we have any questions so far? Great. Okay. If you do, feel free to send me an email, enter those in the chat. And again, Utah has a very strong CSTA chapter. A couple of the Utah CSTA president, vice president, and secretary are CS facilitators in Utah that help facilitate CS and train teachers how to get their students to learn computer science, when, where, and how to do that. So on this slide, there's a link to join the CSTA cohort in Utah. Again, it's free. You could do a pay membership, but I definitely suggest joining this group because you join a larger cohort of educators that are doing exactly what you're doing, seeing what resources they're using, how they're doing it, how they're integrating it in their class. And it's a great forum and place for discussion. Thinking about opportunities for computer science, whether that's training or whether that's enrichment for computer science, after school Girls Who Code programs, things like that. The STEM Action Center in Utah has a lot of not only programs or events that they support, but they have grants available focused on STEM, which can help support your efforts in computer science K-5. So now we're going to end with just looking at Hour of Code events and support, and then how Mindspark can help. So Mindspark does an Hour of Code training in partnership with code.org. We have several of these trainings, and there's a link to these trainings on the next slide. They're virtual and in person at the University of Utah. This is a free training for teachers. We talk about family code night, Hour of Code, Day of Code, and virtual engagements, and we actually give away planning templates that have every single thing teachers could want that are going to engage in this. We've had some great success stories where teachers attend our Hour of Code and they pull off an evening of code and have hundreds, if nearly thousands of students and families up there just within a month's time frame. So when I say our templates have everything that teachers need to pull this off, they've got everything teachers need to pull these events off. So the purpose of this event is to train teachers to learn how they can engage students in these different types of Hour of Code engagements during CS Ed Week. So whether that's an Hour of Code in their class, a Day of Code at the school was kind of like a field day, but it's all around computer science. So how can you do that at your school? How can you get that rolling with the other teachers in your school? How can you get additional volunteers? How do you send the letters out? All of that's provided in our Train the Trainers, where we have templates for all of that communication, along with the family code night or evening of code, and then the virtual engagement and how to do a virtual Hour of Code. On this slide, teachers and educators can register for those Hour of Code training events. Those are free. If attending in person at the University of Utah, dinner will be provided. And at all of these trainings, we actually do give away computer science-based books for elementary school teachers. And we also give away robots at our trainings as well. So during Computer Science Education Week, it's December 6th through 10th this year. That's a great time to build up a robust engagement and community around computer science. So this is when we do Hour of Code events. So we do a training for teachers that are preparing them for CS Ed Week. And that week always falls in December. So here, Mindspark provides support for up to 5 Hour of Code events in Utah. So whether that's we're sending our team to help run activities, or we're sending prizes for district level events or school level events, we provide support. It is a first come, first served basis, but we have a link here that you're more than welcome to send out to your schools or for yourself and talk about if you would like support, please fill this link out because we're going ahead and prioritizing districts and schools we're going to be supporting for 2021. And that's not to be confused with the training. The training is free. This is supporting the actual student-facing events. So again, our facilitators come run activities. We help collaborate and plan the event, or just donating prizes. We can support in a number of ways depending on the need. And then on December 9th, on Thursday, at the University of Utah, we will actually be hosting an hour of code that's student-facing. So at this event, we will have different CS activities and games for students and families to engage in. There will be dinner and pizza provided. The first 100 students and families registered will be invited because we just don't have that much space in the department we're in. And so there's a link here. If you're interested in that, fill that out so we can send information about that event your way. So now to talk a little bit about Mindspark's events and Mindspark support. Our goal at Mindspark is to facilitate school and district K-12 pathway planning. So not only do we do the hour of code, but we do any CS workshops, coding and robotics workshops. And we also look at your specific goals. So we don't just do a one size fits all. That's something I really want to emphasize. We've helped number of schools across Colorado, hundreds of schools actually, and a number of districts build their K-12 pathways. And we're starting that work in Utah as well in a number of districts. So our goal is to customize computer science for your school, for your district and your community. And that's not always a one size fits all model. So we're here to support what works for your community and what your system already holds within its infrastructure, whether that's hiring somebody for CS, integrating in a scope and sequence, or what that looks like for you guys. On this slide, there's a planning doc for you guys. These are great questions when you're thinking about district level planning and school level planning. So I know most people on here probably have already submitted their 5-year plan for CS, but take a look at this document and think about, okay, we've submitted this plan. Did I think about all of the things that are on this document in regards to integrating computer science for all students and where this will fit in for all of the students? On this slide, there's just information. If you'd like more information, you can click on the links on this slide, on slide 33. My Calendly link is on the slide too. And if you'd like to set up time to talk about what you're doing, your computer science master plan, where you're at, where you might need help, please set up a time. I would love to hear from you. Okay, so we are almost at 4 o'clock here, and I don't want to keep anybody past time. I'm going to look in the chat. So Pam, you're saying although the state did create a grant program, at this point, the funding for the grant keeps getting pushed back to 1 year at a time funding by the legislator. Yes, so I am aware of that. Let's see, as a result, we're having difficulty gaining momentum because our district is not showing a willingness or ability to create anything sustainable or anything that can grow. How can we get this to change? So Pam, one way we see this getting that momentum going is actually having teacher stories and student stories and presenting those to the Board of Education at your district or to admins in your district. So that's definitely something we can talk about this momentum. And I am aware they are doing funding 1 year at a time. But I definitely would like to talk with you about that. Let me see. For example, some of our grant was supposed to be for FTE, for coaches and leaders. So I'm curious, Pam, who won't allow you to spend it that way? Is it your district won't allow you to spend it that way because it's 1 year limited? Okay, so it's 1 year limited, but they should be getting the rest of the funding for the next 4 years. And they're just going to roll it out on a yearly basis. Part of that is because I mean, to my knowledge, when the grant was applied for, it was going to be funding was going to be available 1 year at a time, not funding for all 5 years would be delivered at once. And part of that is because as the years continue, checking in to see if you're meeting some of the goals that you would within that first plan, year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, before receiving the next amount of funding. So I'm curious, it's for, yeah, so I do know it's for ongoing funds, but it was ongoing over the 5 years, correct? So you apply for a 5-year grant and you get funds yearly. So right now the state's saying they may not have the funds, but they should have the funds. I can't say that out of certainty. I have met with Christina at the Board of Education and they haven't heard anything about the funds yet, but to my knowledge, they should have the funds to continue to support those programs. So I'm trying to think too, about how to continue that momentum through that district. So regardless about the grant funding, it is required in Utah for all students to have access to computer science. So I'm wondering if there's a way to leverage that with your district. And even looking at other STEM and title funds that could continue the positions outside of the grant funds if those were to not come back for an unforeseen reason. So those are just some of my initial thoughts on how to continue that momentum. But Pam, it's good to see you on here too. But we should definitely follow up. And I know you'll be at the CS Ed conference. So it's definitely something that we can discuss when we're there together as well. So this last slide, I just wanted to put my contact information and Csta, who is my partner, her contact information. And then there's also a Calendly link to schedule time. So Pam, if you would like, we can schedule a time to meet to talk about the issues with the momentum. And I can do some work before we meet to bring some ideas to the table about suggestions and strategies to keep the momentum going and what that looks like. We know we've had success here in Colorado, again, with bringing those examples, student and teacher examples with industry partners to admins and to the school board at school board meetings to also continue that momentum and get the buy-in from the school board. So despite funding, that's an option to continue the momentum by getting that buy-in. So then now you're not convincing people that we need to do it because of the grant, but you have teacher and student perspective that is convincing and making the case. So the CS Ed conference, Linda, I'm not sure, Linda, what district are you from? CS Ed conference is a global conference in LA, November 1st through 5th. It is an invitation only event. And Linda, are you at the university? Let me see. No, Washington County School District. Okay, Linda, I can actually send you the event because they're still taking registration. So it's November, actually districts come the 3rd through the 5th. So November 3rd through 5th, there's scholarships that pay for travel and lodging and food for breakfast and lunch. So I'll send you that invitation, Linda. If you could send me an email or put your email in here, I can send you the invitation. So I would suggest if you're even at all interested, register for it because seats for that are first come, first served because there's only a limited number of scholarships. So we would love to have you there. Pam's going to be there. Ed is going to be there as well. That was on this call earlier. And there's going to be a number of other districts and admins and CS leaders from across the nation that have been in your shoes before. So it's a really great opportunity to learn from peers. So I definitely suggest signing up for that. Okay, I'm going to get your email, Linda, and I will send you the invitation. And after you register on the invitation, Linda, then code.org will actually send you confirmation in a couple of weeks. They haven't sent out confirmation to anybody yet. But it's a conference put on by CSTA, code.org, CSforAll, a lot of the great organizations that were here today. Are there any questions? I know we're over. I wanted to stick to the time, but I saw some things in the chat I wanted to address. So thank you guys for joining today. Again, here's the link to the bit.ly. It's in the chat right now. So you can access the slides if you need to. You guys have a great day. Thank you guys for joining. I look forward to seeing you guys at the CS EdCon in November.